If you're one of the millions of teachers who's having to teach online for the first time because of the coronavirus, then this video is for you. My name is Michael Lisi, and I've spent the last decade working with schools and helping them with their distance learning programs. And I'm going to show you in the next 10 minutes how to get yourself up and running with distance learning. I'm going to go ahead and show you the equipment that you need, how to set it up, how to set up your software, how to teach in interesting ways online, and also I'm going to share the top 6 mistakes that people typically make when web conferencing for the first time. Let's dive right in. To begin, you're going to need some kind of a PC or a laptop running a video conferencing software. A lot of schools are giving these to the faculty, but if you have to go out and find your own, I'd recommend you take a look at Zoom, BlueJeans, or perhaps GoToMeeting or Adobe Connect. Next, I'm going to suggest you get a USB web camera from Walmart or Target. They cost anywhere from $40 to $75 if you need to buy a really nice one, but the camera quality looks a lot better than the little camera that's built into your laptop, as you'll see in a moment. Now, though a lot of these cameras have a built-in microphone, I'm also going to recommend you get yourself a pair of headphones with a built-in microphone, maybe Apple's EarPods or some other headphone system with a microphone built in. And I'll explain why a little bit later, but this can really come in handy in mitigating issues that are related to echo. And then last but not least, if you teach with any teaching peripherals like a document camera or some special pen tablets, maybe because you do a lot of handwriting in your class sessions, or you want to be able to show physical objects, maybe it's a science class or something like that, then I'm going to recommend you just get some kind of a USB camera system that you can plug into your laptop. Next, we're going to take a look at the actual configuration of the web conferencing software itself. One of the key things with every piece of web conferencing software you're going to use is they almost always require that you select which camera and microphone you want to use on your web conference. There's almost always either a settings icon or a little icon that looks like a gear. That's where you'll typically find video and audio settings. In the Zoom client, it's right here in the bottom left-hand corner. I can click this up arrow and select the microphone I want to use, and I can also click the up arrow next to the camera and select which camera I want to use. And sometimes it's not easy to know which of these microphones is the right one. What I'll typically do is I'll tap on my microphone to make sure that's in fact the one that I'm hoping is live. Otherwise, if you use the wrong microphone, it'll sound like you're talking from a bathroom stall. Also, pay attention that there isn't a red line struck through your camera or microphone. If that's the case, then your camera won't get sent into the meeting, like in this case. So if for some reason you're not seeing yourself, it's probably because the camera just needs to be activated. Next, we're going to take a look at setting up your physical environment. Once you've got your camera set up, you want to position yourself in a way that you kind of fill up the frame of the camera. It goes along with the photography principle of the rule of thirds, where you want your eyes to be right around a third of the way down, and you kind of want to be positioned within the middle third of the image. You also need to pay attention to lighting. You don't want it to be so bright that nobody can see you because you got hot, bright light shining on your face, or you're right in front of bright open windows. You also don't want it to be so dark that it looks like you're sitting somewhere in a closet. You want to have ambient light that lights both sides of you relatively neutrally. So the light behind you shouldn't be too much brighter than the light in front of you. And you want to make sure you don't have a lot of light coming from one side that half of your face would be in darkness. The next key element, background. You don't want to have a ton of clutter behind you. You can use virtual backgrounds, so you can superimpose a graphic behind you. That's also in the settings of the Zoom software, for example. Or you can use software like XSplit's VCam, which allows you to kind of blur out the image behind you a little bit. Now let's talk about some ways to jazz up your online instruction. Of course, you can share PowerPoints and kind of do a voice-over PowerPoint presentation similar to what you used to do in the classroom. But you're going to find this new medium is a little difficult in that it's harder to keep people's attention. There are some things you can do on the other side. Leverage the best of the web. You can bring up all kinds of curated content from YouTube videos to websites, and a lot of this information can tell your story for you, but it brings a very fresh new relevance to what you're trying to teach. We also can consider using, as I mentioned previously, some of these teaching aids. So this is just a document camera, but this would be great for someone who does a lot of whiteboarding in their classroom environment or does a lot of math equations. You can also use these kinds of surfaces if you're trying to present physical objects. So if it's engineering or electrical engineering, or it's a sciences course where we're showing physical objects, that's a really great way to draw attention as well. We are using a web conferencing platform. Why not invite our friends? Invite people that are familiar with your content, who actually work in the industries that you're talking about, to join your class session for the day and talk to your students. Another thing you can do in this environment is allow your students to share their content. And this is even easier than it used to be in the physical classroom. So when you're ready to share content, you can just click the share screen button and it brings up a bunch of options of content that you can share, but your students can do the exact same thing. And so now you can literally have students present one by one, or you can use this chat function. This is huge because for the first time ever, you have a way of knowing what your students are thinking. So you can send out a poll or ask a question, and then students who otherwise might not be vocal in the classroom can privately chat their answers to you. They can privately message you if they want you to speed up or slow down. And this is a great way for you to know whether they're comprehending the material that you're delivering or not. Now let's talk about the top 6 mistakes that you can avoid when web conferencing for the first time. Dress properly. I've seen a lot of people try to break this rule a little bit because, hey, you can only see the top part of my camera. Maybe I'll come to class in pajamas from the bottom down. I would be very careful because you don't always know which camera is going to turn on. You don't want to get fired for not being properly dressed. But I would also say it adds a lot of credibility to what you're doing when you dress properly, like you would if you were going to work. Next up, you're going to want to make sure you unmute your microphone. Again, double check that your microphone is unmuted before you start teaching class, because you don't want to go 20 minutes into a session only to realize that your microphone has been muted or that you're using the wrong microphone. Next, come to class early, right? You want to try and join your web conference 5 to 10 minutes early, because a lot of web conferencing software companies change and update their software all the time. And so it's really common for you to go to start a web conference only to find out that it's time for you to update your software. And it takes 5 to 10 minutes to do that. And you don't want to be having your computer restarting and waiting for something to load while you've got a room full of students just waiting for the teacher to appear. The next one is mute attendees. So all of your students are going to be joining class from who knows where, and there's going to be a lot of background noise. And that background noise can create a real distraction, whether it's a dog barking or a coffee machine grinding espresso beans. You want to make sure that your student microphones are muted. But I suggest you don't be the one to mute them. I suggest you train them how to mute themselves. So ask your students to mute their own microphone and only unmute it if they would like to speak. This way you don't have to babysit that and constantly be watching for a student who asks to speak. Now, probably the most important message I can tell you is how to avoid microphone shriek. So there's something that can happen on a web conference where you start to hear this pulsing, shrieking echo. And what causes it is there's a microphone that's picking up the sound coming from a speaker. Now, a lot of these systems are supposed to cancel out that sound, but it doesn't always work, especially when somebody joins the meeting from 2 devices. So they call from their computer and they call from their cell phone. The cell phone starts hearing the audio coming out from the computer and puts it back into its microphone. The computer then hears that audio and plays it back out again. If you start to hear that shrieking, piercing echo, the way to neutralize it is to mute the microphone of the person that's creating it. Look for whose window is actually chirping that noise in at you and click the mute button on that window. If you're planning on recording that class session, don't forget to start your recording. I would probably start the recording right when you're doing the microphone check. So there you have it. That's everything you need to get up and running with teaching online. If you'd like more information, you can keep in touch. You can find me by emailing me at mlisi.email@gmail.com. You can also find more useful videos on the web. Just search for Michael Lisi on YouTube. And do feel free to reach out. I'm happy to respond to any personal requests or questions you may have. And with that, I wish you the best of luck and a fantastic teaching experience.